Hey everyone, it's me, Aridos of Rashid. I'm your anthropologist and sociologist. If you're Italian, call me Emiliano. That's my second given name, perfectly fine. Hit the like button, share this video, donate links below. Thank you much for your support. It's very much appreciated. You can book a session with me, a one-on-one consultation. Check the fees and instructions in the description box below. Check my novels on Amazon and Barnes & Noble where you can find them. Above all, listen well to this video. You can replay the video, take notes, and pray about it. And where this knowledge applies in your life, apply this knowledge to glorify Heavenly Father. Thank you. Okay. There's one thing I want you to notice about the world. And before I tell you what it is, I'm going to give you a story right now. You have a woman called Janine. Janine just came from rehab. She's an alcoholic. She can't stop drinking alcohol. And she got into fights, brawls. She even crashed with a car multiple times. So the judge told her that she really needed to go into therapy because prison would not fix anything. It would be counterproductive. Also because Janine had an important role in the community with her job. So that's why she had to go into therapy and all of that. And eventually she became sober. She doesn't even want to be around alcohol anymore. And as usual, she visits her relatives, her mom, her dad, uncles. She's around her nieces. And she's also married. She also is around her family-in-law. And, well, according to her life is going well. But this alcoholic thing, it kept haunting her. It been haunting her for since she actually began drinking since she was 15. She was still underage. So it's an issue that's been haunting her for, I would say 20 years. And because she's a mom also, and she doesn't want her daughter to end up as messed up as she is, she really wants to do something about herself. And one day, she's at a therapist, and the therapist asked her a question that triggered her. And the therapist asked her the following question: Janine, you often talk about how supportive your family is, your friends, and the people around you, that you're so thankful to God. You have all these wonderful people around you. Janine, when did you enroll in rehab and in therapy? And she said, after the judge forced me. Because even the judge was concerned about my well-being, especially because I was a mother and had an important role in my job in the community. And the judge told me, ma'am, you need to face that you have a problem because your daughter will be you're hurting your daughter, you're hurting the community, you're hurting your husband. You're going to this rehab right now. And the therapist asked again, okay, so how long ago was this? 4 years. Okay, how long have you been struggling with alcohol? For 20 years, since I was 15. Okay, so 4 years ago, so the therapist continued, 4 years ago, when you were struggling for 16 years with alcoholism, you were forced by the court of law to get help. You got help, things are better now. And then she asked, where are you going with this, sir? And the therapist said, okay, hold on. The mental health professional asked her, listen, you keep saying how wonderful these people are. Where were they when you started drinking a lot of alcohol when you were 15? Where were they? I'm talking about your nieces and nephews who were born later. They weren't even around yet. They mean the older people, the people your own age. Where were they when you were 15? Janine got quiet. Where were they when you were 20 and enrolling in college, joining the sorority, getting drunk all the time, hooking up with all these different dudes? You could have been kidnapped, trafficked, all type of other stuff. Where were these people? Where were they when you had marriage problems? Where were they when you, even after your child was born, you had depression? And where were they? And Janine got tears in the eyes. And the therapist told her, listen, what you've been doing It's blaming yourself for everything. Of course, you took responsibility for your part. You have to admit you have a problem with alcohol. You have to own up to there's something about you that's damaged and you need fixing. That was your part. But here's the thing: all that alcohol you took was to self-medicate the damage you contracted. The question is, who damaged you? You are so focused on the fact that you were struggling with alcohol. But alcohol was a coping mechanism of something that was damaged and broken, which was you. But the thing is, you started so early with it. So that means you were damaged and broken early on. So if you were damaged and broken back then as a teenager and started drinking like that, that means that the people around you, they noticed you were damaged. And that means that they either allowed you to be damaged by whoever damaged you, or they're the ones damaging you. One of the two. That means the people at school, people at the police, people at juvenile court, all these people saw you were damaged, but nobody called out, listen, this girl is damaged. She needs therapy, she needs help, she needs this. No, they all focus on putting all the blame on you. And you, because you didn't want them to make life hard on you, you went along with blaming yourself for everything. Okay, you had blame, you had a part of it, that's true. But it wasn't all on you. The alcohol is not your problem, Shani. Your problem is you're not admitting, nor let alone acknowledge that people damage you and they don't want to change for how you've been behaving towards you. That's your issue. Now, Janine didn't even want to go to the therapist anymore. She felt so hurt and all that. But in the days afterwards, she began to feel better. She began to remember a lot of horrible things her family members told towards her when she was growing up and all that. She remembered how often they would bash her for being an alcoholic, for being pathetic, this and that. So she began to remember all of that, and suddenly she broke contact with her own relatives. She even told her husband, I don't want to see none of your relatives anymore, my family-in-law. If this leads to divorce, so be it. The husband supported her in that. And what do you know? She ended up recovering psychologically. She even looked physically younger. Everyone noticed her improving. But guess who were not around anymore? A lot of these people that kept her damaged. And in the case of Janine, if her relatives were only doing dirt towards her all the time, we would very easily walk away from them. But this thing, they were murmuring, bitching, complaining behind her back. They were giving her a bad reputation by smearing her name. And at the same time, they would show up for birthday parties. They would say congratulations on social media. Or from time to time, they would help out financially. So they could do some good stuff. And the little good they were doing was masked and hiding how horrible they were treating her. And because at the time she didn't have anyone else, she was thankful. Because it could have been worse. But listen, if you're thankful because things could have been worse, that means that the situation is still not at the very best. That means you're grateful because things could have been worse. But listen, there's a difference between you being thankful because people are actually of quality having your back, and you're being thankful that they're behaving themselves towards you. If you're thankful that people and grateful that people are behaving towards you, that means that if they had no restraints forced them to behave towards you, they would do worse. That means that thankfulness or gratefulness is more out of survival. It's also a type of denial also, because the people otherwise who do worse towards you don't do it because they know they have an issue otherwise. But that's totally different from you actually having quality people around you who actually are there for you to the best of their ability. In the case of Janine over here, she did not want to own up for years. When the therapist forced her to own up, she realized, you know what? It was never the alcohol. She developed this obsession with alcohol because she was coping with the fact that her own people did her dirty like this. And in this case, after Janine broke contact, we had no contact with many of her relatives and many of her family-in-law, they began to say, oh, look how ungrateful this woman is. She's been an alcoholic, causing problems all along. She's been a hoe in college, hoeing around, having one night stands here and there. She's been very disrespectful towards the parents, blah, blah, blah. Hold on. Out of the blue, everyone has dirt to say about her, how horrible she is, blah, blah, blah. But here's the issue. It doesn't take away that she was a damaged teenager that grabbed alcohol, and ever since she had an issue with alcohol, and the people around her did not intervene on time. They could have intervened when she was a teenager and stopped all of it. They didn't do it. So the whole situation is not on her. Despite that she's an adult and she has to do her part is just her part. Even if she didn't do her part, in this case, the judge forced her to do her part. But it shouldn't have been the judge doing it. It should have been the community being on her. But this is what I'm telling you. In this case, Janine was the victim. But the thing is, because she was in denial so much, she became part of the problem. Eventually, she became a victimizer herself towards her husband and her daughter, and eventually realized, oh my God, I can't be like this. So she improved. She faced the truth. But let's say now that indeed Janine was a horrible human being and she became a reprobate. That still will not cancel out that the community contributed her become a reprobate, and the couple for that also. That they let a teenager be damaged and let a damaged teenager turn into an adult with psychological problems. It doesn't change anything about that. Now, not everyone that's been victimized becomes a victimizer. That's not true. In the best case scenario, if a victim does not process what was done towards them, they may end up enabling a bad situation, not that they're an act of victimizing themselves. For example, you may have someone molest you when you were younger. Did you become a molester yourself? No. But you could have developed this bitterness towards the one that molested you. And because of that, you don't face the fact of, this individual was so comfortable laying hands on me because the community enabled the individual. So instead of facing the community and process the community did you dirty, now you're still around the same people that allowed bad things to happen to you. So you're still in danger, and now actually you're promoting and advocating that these people are great people when they're not. So other people see your testimony and think, whoa, those are great people. And then other people get involved with them and they get done dirty. So actually you're being used now as a front to bail out these horrible people because you're so obsessed with the one that victimized you. So, okay, you're not a perpetrator nor a molester yourself, but you became an enabler unknowingly. So you have to process what happened to you so it doesn't retain a hold on you, so you don't become a portal for further harm to be done. That's true. What I'm saying here is that in this example of Janine had the worst reputation that the people actually damaged her. If you want to complain about her being an alcoholic, okay, but she was 15. How did you get all the alcohol at age 15? Where was the police? Where were the parents? Where were the adults around? What about the bartenders that served her when she was underage? Why aren't they called out? Okay, she went to college and she was actually holding around, sleeping around like that. Where were the people around her to call her out on her behavior? How come, and all these men that took advantage of her when she was mentally low and just compensating through sex? How come all these men who took advantage of her, how come they're not being called out? What about the so-called friends she had that enabled her toxicity? Why aren't they being called out? What I'm saying is, in the case of Janine was the victim who became damaged. She became a damaged adult, and people want to keep her damaged so they could look down on her and get narcissistic supply. So when Janine became worse, now all the people that were in on keeping her damaged now act like they have no idea what goes on, even though they're part of her decline. If they were pushing her and encouraging her to become better, and they were kind of making her to face herself and become a better human being, and she kept refusing and decline, in that case, it would all be on Janine. But in this case, they were part of her decline. But now the decline was in everyone's face, and it was so embarrassing. Now everyone's acting like they have no idea what goes on. So the victim now has a worse reputation than actual perpetrators and enablers. And I want to tell you something. This is how it goes in society. Now, Janine's example is a bit complicated because she herself became a big part of the problem by denial. But what if she didn't become part of the problem? What if she always recognized people living dirty and want better? But nobody really helped her out. Okay, let's say now Janine was not in denial. She realized, okay, people did me dirty. And you know what? I can't keep blaming other people. I want to get rid of this alcoholic thing. But she kept on following some addiction, whether it's alcoholism, whether it is drugs or whatever. So in this case, she has self-blame that she has guilt she needs to get be delivered from. If nobody tells her, yo, Shanine, you messed up, you failed, but you owned up to how you felt, right? And you also admit people did you wrong, correct? But you don't put all the blame on them. You're doing your part to be better, right? Okay. Are those other people doing the same thing? No. So stop blaming yourself for a moment, please. What else can you do? If people don't tell her that and actually help her out psychologically, they're not really helping her. If they encourage her, go for it, Shanine, you're in rehab, well done, 1 year sober, well done. If they only encourage her in coping with the issue, but they don't actually tell her or show her what the real issue is, they're not actually helping her. They're just virtue signaling to make themselves appear good. Because actually they're part of the problem too. What I'm saying is that in society often the victim who survives ends up as a damaged adult with issues. And as a damaged adult, they malfunction. People get bothered with them malfunctioning. Well, hold on a minute. How is it that the public demands you to be in a good state, behave well, obey the laws, be polite, blah, blah, blah? How come they are there to demand and expect from you? And God forbid you fail their expectations. They either abandon you or they turn on you to put you in prison or to harm you or whatever. So they're there to demand and there to threaten you, but they're not there to actually work with you for things to be better. So the public expects you to be devoted to their interests and their well-being unconditionally, but you have to remain an option. I'm sorry, what is this? That's narcissism. Nobody in the right mind should agree with this, and nobody in the right mind would even demand this for someone else. But that's how society is. Society is a narcissist. So now, when the victim remains damaged, either because people sabotage the victim in looking for help, it could be you want to get help, how to get rid of an issue, and people give you false information that will make things worse for you. They give you wrong advice. You're actually looking for advice, you want this to be better, but they give you wrong advice. Or people know of therapy or something can help you out, but they don't tell you, they withhold knowledge from you. Or they actively deny the victim is improving. Because sometimes there are people who are damaged, they're improving, but people deny their improvement. If you celebrate someone's improvement, that will push them to be better. So either people sabotage when someone wants help, or people deny someone's improvement, keep reminding them only of the past how horrible they were. Or people act like they don't see anything, even though it's in their face. Because here's the issue. If the victim died, they could have buried the individual, and then they could send the police to look for the perpetrator and catch the bad guy, put the bad guy in prison, and the whole community would act like we're good people. We got the motherfucker, we got the bitch, or whatever. They could go off like that, saying, look how good we are, because look what happened. Actions, consequences. But if the victim survives, that's a problem. Because there is no victim or the victimizer. And if they're victimizer, the people will let it happen, or people will facilitate it to happen. And that's something people are uncomfortable admitting. And if the victim is still alive in a damaged state, people are reminded every day by their malfunction that the community failed them. And if the community failed them, listen, if someone else around you or someone else you've gone in the street has been done dirty or neglected or abandoned by the community, the same could happen to you too. And people don't want to be remembered that they could be abandoned and neglected too. So then they get upset with the individual malfunctioning. Because it's easier to do that than to admit I could be next to. So often victims, I don't talk about people who play the victim, because I'm talking about actual victims, they have a worse reputation. Their bad name is worse than the actual perpetrators. Society often sides with the perpetrators and the victimizers instead of with the victims, because the victims reveal that, listen, the perpetrator wouldn't even be there if they had the opportunity. And who gave the opportunity? The community did. So the community gave the opportunity, the community is culpable, the community is not obliged to put up with them until they fully recovered. Now, they as a victim have to own up and want to recover too. However, the community has to own up too. But because the community doesn't want to own up, they form what we call society, and they blame the victim for everything. If they can't blame the victim, they look for the direct perpetrators to blame. Or if they can't find the perpetrator, they go for someone else totally unrelated to take it out on. That is society. Society is this mechanism of adults escaping in a pattern. Community are the people living somewhere or sharing values together. That's the difference between society and community. A community is not society, and a society is not a community. However, people who are part of communities are often also part of society. It goes hand in hand. Communities and societies often operate the same way in the world, unfortunately. They deny culpability. They often blame their victims. They often develop this obsession with the bad guys so they can appear better than they really are. I'm telling you, victims often have a worse reputation than the actual victimized and perpetrators. And look, if someone is doing their best to improve, that even makes it worse for the public. Because that individual shouldn't have to do all this extra effort just to survive and improve. The fact they have to go through so much struggles to survive and improve means that the people are, not only people allow bad things to happen to them, people are in and keeping them in a damaged state also. Society prefers you just die at the very moment you've been damaged, or they want you to become a reprobate yourself so they can put all the blame on you and nobody looks at them anymore. But for you to survive, and either you're dysfunctional going around in a toxic way, or you survived and now you are recovering, both instances make the public look horrible. People will hate you more as a surviving victim in recovery than they'll hate the actual perpetrator doing towards you. Now, there are exceptions, of course, but in general, that's how the world is. Because people in the world want to escape and don't want to face anything. So, you can have a bad name, a bad reputation, because you're actually a horrible, bad human being. That happens. You also have times someone has a bad name, either because they are a surviving and recovering victim, or because they called out the narcissism of the public, and now the public thinks, well, how do you think you are, blah, blah, blah. So just because you have a bad reputation doesn't mean you're bad quality. There are a lot of people out there of quality doing good to the community with a bad reputation. Because them doing all that good quality expose the public. Because if they're doing all this good quality, what's the rest of the people doing? How come the rest is not improving, incoming just of quality like they are? So you don't have to be doing wrong in order to be perceived as wrong. You don't have to be doing evil to be perceived as evil. People may perceive you as evil, treat you like evil, treat you like your shit, just because you don't fit their interests. Simple as that. But just know, society by default tends to protect the perpetrators and victimizers and blame the victims. Now, of course, for practical reasons, they will arrest the victimizers if it's too much in people's face. If they can hide it or act like they didn't see anything, they'll do that. But if it's in people's face, they will arrest the perpetrators and victimizers directly, put them in prison. But just because they arrest and put the people in prison or they execute them doesn't mean that they've done good. How come this happened to begin with, and what are they doing for the damaged people to recover, and what are they doing for them to be a better and safe community so such things don't happen in the future? So understand this: when society is praising someone You have to watch out. Why a society praises individual? It rarely happens that someone of actual good quality is praised and honored by society. That only happens in extreme cases when people have no choice but acknowledge someone's quality. Often when someone is praised by society, it is either because this is a victim in recovery, and people keep praising individuals so much. Why? And let me tell you why. By praising individuals so much, they will fool the individual in thinking that they've already recovered, even though they haven't recovered at all. If a victim is in recovery, they need people around to be as realistic as possible towards them to push them to continue in recovery and actually heal and become better. To have people praise them like they already recovered while they're not, that's actually to sabotage their recovery and their healing. So society sometimes will elevate some of their own victims who survived just to keep them damaged. And of course, because they remain damaged, eventually will crash. And once they crash, people act like, whoa, it has nothing to do with us because we've been praising them, we've been celebrating them, whatever. It's either that's why they did praise someone, or they're praising an actual evil or wasteful individual who will do the dirty job for them. Whether it's a politician who will enact some policies that will harm the people the public hate, whether it's migrants or minorities, whatever, or they want a bad guy on the front, so that when the bad guy does the dirt on their behalf, they can always blame the bad guy being so bad and they look better. So those are the three reasons why all society will praise someone. Rarely will society praise someone who's actually of quality because they have quality. I'm telling you. So if the world in general is praising you, you know you're messing up. You know you're doing something wrong. Now, is there anything wrong with people praising you? No. Is there anything wrong with people celebrating you? No. You being celebrated and praised is a good thing. The question is, why are they praising you and why are they celebrating you? And for the world, often when they celebrate and praise you, it's for the wrong reason. Not always. There are exceptions, but often it is for the wrong reasons, y'all. I'm telling you, watch out with the praise of the world, y'all. Just watch out with it. Sometimes the world will elevate one of their victims in recovery. And they will elevate this individual, give them a platform, cut them a check, make them a millionaire, billionaire, whatever. And they would say, you know what? It doesn't matter how horrible your past was. If you work hard, you can get out of it. They will promote this agenda. Why? To hide the fact that there's still thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of other people that are still doing dirty. So the community or in general, society can still be harming hundreds of thousands of people ongoing. They don't stop, but 1, 2, or 3 of the survivors that are still in recovery, they elevate them to act like, whoa, we are a good community, we're great people. People with, you know what I mean? So I'm telling you, watch out when the world's praising you. Listen, there's nobody in human history who actually did quality good for the community without being criticized and without being attacked. Look, just if someone is blunt, telling the facts, but don't offer solutions for what they're addressing, they're not doing anything good. Oh, that guy is upstanding. He's honest. No, he's not honest, just being blunt. If he was honest, he would admit the facts and also admit and do something about it. And if he does know a solution, he will keep his mouth shut and look for a solution. It amazes me how often people praise others being blunt and direct. No. Being blunt and direct without having a solution in place is not doing anything good, actually doing more harm. Because not only are you mentioning something painful that will traumatize people more, but you're mentioning it as if you don't owe any contribution to any solution. You just mention it because you're pissed off or upset about it, and people just have to take that. No. But those type of people are called honest by the world, and they're praised, y'all. I'm thinking, praise for what? For mentioning a problem out of spite or out of irritation, or actually having a solution in place that makes things better for others? Why should someone like that be praised, y'all? And this also one of the reasons why a lot of people voted for Trump. for his first presidency and his second presidency because Trump called things as they were. But here's the issue. He called things as they were, right? Did he offer solutions? Did he also call out the public for letting things happen? Did he actually comply with justice? No. And a lot of people do this. When they're upset or they're fed up, just call something out as it is, just to get it off your chest, and then they want to be left alone like they don't owe anyone anything. No. You express something directly, okay, but if your expression doesn't lead to a solution or it only makes things worse, you are culpable, you are responsible, and it's on you now. And people have the right to call you out and force you to not count and to make you comply with a solution or take action against you if you keep bringing forth harm like that. It'll be better off if you just shut your mouth and walk away than just act out, reveal how you feel without any consideration for others. Listen to what I'm saying here. Listen very well. Society often sides with the perpetrators and the victimizers. Why? Because for them to fully turn on the victimizers and the perpetrators, they would also have to admit we let this happen, we're culpable too. And that is a self-reflection, the painful realization people don't want to face. Neither about themselves nor those around them. People want the fair tale, y'all. Are there exceptions? Of course. Sometimes you have movements out there who go right against this. Sometimes you have even worldly people joining movements that demand justice. And it's great and wonderful to see this. We need more of such movements in the world, y'all. We need more of such movements. Unfortunately, those movements are not the norm in the world. They are the exception. And that's how the will be till Christ comes back. So, watch out with the praise of the world, y'all. If someone is praised by the world, if it's really genuine praise, because someone actually is of quality, well, that's an exception. If that's not the case, then one asks of why are they being platformed like this? Why are they being regarded like this? What goes on? What is the agenda? And that is the question a lot of people don't ask themselves. What is the agenda here? Look, if you open up your mind for solutions and you're realistic about your environment, you will see the agenda very quickly and you're able to avoid traps. Above all, I want you to agree with Christ. Again, pray about this video, see where it applies in your life, and wherever it applies, apply this knowledge, glorify Heavenly Father. For now, donate the links below. Help me out with this ministry, very much appreciate it. And I'll see you in my next live stream. Shalom.